Hello, welcome to the Midwest Traveler, and I am in Independence, Missouri, visiting the Harry S Truman Museum and Library. I've been there once before, maybe 5-6 years ago. Definitely wanted to come back, and I thought, it's a good day. Come see a really good presidential museum that I've been to before. Harry S Truman, very underrated president in some senses. Definitely had to make some big decisions in his career. Pretty cool museum. Excited to go back, check it out, and I'll talk more about in this museum. Of course, you see the statue of Harry S Truman right behind me, and the entrance is right there. So I'll talk to you after I get out. So I just got through going through the museum again. Behind me is the Presidential Library here in Independence, Missouri, the Harry S Truman Presidential Library Museum. Yeah, really cool museum. Definitely highly recommend it. Again, this is my second time coming here. It's from Leavenworth, where I live. It's close to an hour probably drive. So, not too bad to me to get to, and you can see a really cool museum. I mean, Harry S Truman, interesting, of course, only president from Missouri, which is right next to my state, Kansas. So it's nice to see a Midwest president, and get to see what all he did. Interesting, he's from Lamar, Missouri. He was a farmer. His dad was a road overseer, and he kind of took over after his dad died. That was kind of the first part of being in politics, in a sense. Very poor, of course. He ended up going drafted, or didn't get drafted, but he went into the armed services during World War I. He was 33 years old, so he wasn't very young, but wanted to serve his country. Fought in World War I. Came back. He opened up what they call a haberdashery, which is like a country store. And a friend of his that he met in the army named Pendergrass, who had a lot of money, went to him and said, "Hey, you want to run for county judge?" Gave him a bunch of money, basically, financed his campaign. He was a county judge for a little bit. He then worked himself up to running for senator, of course, becoming senator here from Missouri. After being a senator for about 10 years, and he really enjoyed his time as senator. And he started the Truman Committee, where he found a lot of fraud and stuff like that. Again, was very well liked, very well respected. Again, only because really he had the money behind the Pendergrass that he got into office and enjoyed it. Roosevelt was president. He ran for a fourth election. And this is the craziest thing, I think, of everything, is that people that knew Roosevelt knew that he was dying. And he still ran for a fourth president and won, even though the public didn't know he was dying, but people that knew him knew he was dying. They knew that he'd probably die in office in his fourth election. And so they didn't like the guy that was president or vice president at the time. They thought he was too liberal. So they decided, they had secret meetings with President Roosevelt, other Democrats, I guess, leaders, and tried to pick who would be a good vice president, because whoever they picked for vice president was going to be president. So it's one of those happy accidents for Harry Truman, where he wasn't wanting to be president. It was never a goal of his, but he was liked enough. They thought he had enough, his policies weren't too radical, I guess, and he had no scandals behind him. So they picked him to be vice president, even though he even refused. He refused several times, and then finally Roosevelt called him and got him to accept. Of course, Roosevelt, very popular president, won again. Truman didn't know he was dying either. He didn't know he was going to be president, anytime. 82 days into the presidency, Harry Truman was vice president for 82 days. Then Roosevelt died, making Truman the president. And he only met with Roosevelt twice. So here we're right in the middle of kind of World War II. I mean, the biggest war of our time. Roosevelt was developing the atomic bomb. Truman had no idea. I just think it's absolutely crazy that Truman, he gets picked to be vice president against his will. Next thing you know, he's president and he knows nothing about what's going on, because Roosevelt didn't meet with him, which is, why did Roosevelt not meet with him? It's just insane. It's like, you're dying. This guy's going to be president. Don't you want to give him all the information you need and advise him, because he's going to be president and we're in this really troubled time? But no, he only met with him twice, didn't tell him anything. Roosevelt dies, Truman's president, and then they're like, oh, by the way, we got this atomic bomb thing going on, and we're thinking about dropping on Japan, which is the biggest decision any president's ever made. That's why Truman, his time is so significant, because he had to decide what do we do about Japan? We beat Germany in Europe, but we still got Japan to fight. And do we sacrifice a lot of soldiers' lives after they already fought in Europe to go to Japan to try to fight Japan? Or do we drop the atomic bomb, nuclear bomb, and hopefully they will, negotiate for peace at that point? Because at that point, Japan was like, it'd be dishonorable to, what do you call, to surrender, because surrender was a very, they're all about honor, and it'd be dishonorable to surrender kind of thing. They'd rather die. That's why they have all these suicidal pilots and stuff like that. And so, yeah, it was one of those things. He dropped the bomb. They eventually did negotiate peace. There's questions, should he? And that's one of the most interesting parts of the museum is, going through that, and like, there's good arguments on both sides. I usually think that, I agree that he should have dropped the bomb, because we tried to get peace with Japan. We warned them they would not, and again, we're trying to save our American lives. And so it's unfortunate. Wish it never had happened. Of course, once we dropped the atomic bomb, that started the nuclear age, which, is still with us today. But I go through all kinds of things, like also, what do we do with the Jewish state, and he had to decide what to do with Israel and make it a Jewish state. Also dealt a lot with civil rights issues as well. Like, he was the president that issued that African-American soldiers or African-Americans can fight in the armed forces or something along those lines, which wasn't done at the time. But yeah, lots of tough decisions during Truman's presidency, which makes him, like I said, I don't know if we talk enough about how big he was as a president. I'm not saying he's one of my favorite presidents, but definitely what a troubled time. Also, we talk about the Korean War. It goes into the Korean War, basically the start of the Cold War, which is this, and Soviet Union becoming a big power, big evil power after Germany and Japan were defeated. And now we had to deal with the communists in Stalin and all that. And so that's very interesting. And the fact that we went to the Korean War, which I'm thinking, why did we go to Korea? We probably didn't need to go to Korea. It's one of those wars where it's like, that in Vietnam, it's like, we shouldn't have gotten involved, but it was capitalism versus communism. So we go into that in the museum too anyway. So I'm going through just a lot of facts and figures that going, just to say that very interesting president, I think, very interesting subject matter to research, because a lot of stuff happened while he was president. I didn't even mention when he ran for election, nobody thought he was going to win, because everybody thought, nobody knew who Truman was. He was just kind of accidentally became president, and he wasn't the super popular guy at the time. And they thought Thomas Dewey, who was a Republican who ran against Roosevelt, I think twice, and lost, but he was very popular amongst the Republican Party. He was a lawyer in New York, and everybody thought Dewey was going to beat him, because again, he wasn't elected president. He became president because Roosevelt died. So it's one of those things where it was easy to campaign against him and say, hey, this guy never won an election, all this. And so, yeah, everybody just assumed Dewey. He already ran a couple times. I mean, why not him? You also had Strom Thurmond, who was part of this like very racist Democrat Party section, the Dixiecrats. He was in a third party. He took actually quite a bit of electoral college votes too as a third party. So that was working against Truman, because some of the Democrats didn't even agree with Truman. So he thought, wow, all the Republicans would vote for Dewey. Not all the Democrats are going to vote for Truman or whatever. But no, Truman still won. And it was one of probably the most surprising defeat in U.S. politics history. Another very interesting section of Truman, his career, as a president, is, and I love that picture of him holding the newspaper that says Dewey defeats Truman, because everybody figured Truman would lose, so they already printed a bunch of newspaper articles saying Dewey won, and so he holds that up as trolling everybody, like it's just an interesting moment in politics history that he actually won that election and had that second term anyway. So yeah, lots of interesting stuff here, lots of interactive stuff. One of my favorite things was there was this whole thing where you put on some headphones and you can go through from Truman to current day and listen to the campaign music of everybody, and also kind of see how the electoral college went and how far they won or how close the elections were. I love that kind of stuff. I'm just a total presidential history nerd and government nerd and all this. And so I went through and I listened to all the campaign music, which is kind of interesting because they're all kind of very hokey, old time music. I did like Ike Eisenhower's, I like Ike, you like Ike, everybody likes Ike. It's kind of a cool campaign song. John F. Kennedy had Frank Sinatra, for goodness sakes. I was like, wow, everybody kind of had these hokey things, and then you get to John F. Kennedy, and all of a sudden he has Frank Sinatra singing, get back Jack or whatever. Everybody vote for Jack. He's right on track. And it's like, of course, that's Frank Sinatra. What a cool campaign slogan to have. And a lot of them weren't that great. And then you get to Bill Clinton, and Bill Clinton has Fleetwood Mac. It's the first time we got like pop music, and it's like, why have we not been using pop music all this time? But he has one of the coolest campaign music of all time, because he had first one to have a pop band, Don't Stop whatever song from Rumors, and after that everybody kind of started doing more pop music. If I remember right, George W. Bush did I Won't Back Down from Tom Petty, which I didn't realize. Great song. Donald Trump uses God Bless USA, which is a great song too. Very patriotic anyways. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. That was probably my favorite part. I spent a lot of time at that, just listening to all the campaign music and looking at the Electrical College. That was really cool. But yeah, lots of videos throughout, lots of interactive stuff for kids as well. Overall, really cool museum. I think I love presidential museums. They're always pretty good. But yeah, definitely one to try out if you're around the area, if you haven't tried it already. But yeah, I highly recommend it. Yeah, had a good time here at the Harry S Truman Museum here in Independence, Missouri. So thank you for watching this. I might go and see what else is around here, and if not, I will see you guys later. Hello, I'm here at the Truman Historic Courthouse. There's another statue of Harry Truman. They're mowing the lawn right now, and there's lots of construction around here. But also, I'm going to go just over here to the Clintons. Ice cream. Oh, soda. It's called a soda fountain place, and go see if I can get some ice cream or something like that. And it's a place where Truman himself worked when he was a kid. I'm here at Clinton's Soda Fountain Shop, where Harry Truman himself worked at as a kid. So kind of a historical place where you can go get drinks and ice cream, coffee, stuff like that. So I'm here again in front of the Truman Historic Courthouse. There's a statue of Andrew Jackson there. I just went to Clinton's, where I got a vanilla shake. To be honest, it had no taste to it, so it wasn't particularly very good, but it's kind of an old-fashioned historical. Like I said, Truman worked there, and so it's kind of a cool, really small like soda shop. Anyways, I wouldn't say it's only go there because it's historical, but there's a lot of cool areas, a lot of shops and restaurants around this area. This is a thing called Independence Square. There's a place called Up Dog over here. It's like an old-fashioned restaurant where they have hot dogs. Everything's about to close, so I'm not going to any of these places, but I've heard Up Dog's pretty good. I heard Square Pizza is a pretty good place. I even saw a vintage record store I was going to go into, but it closes at 5, so, and it's almost 5 right now, so love to walk around and see more places, but everything's kind of closing down. But it's cool. I got to see some historical areas here for Truman anyway, so lots of construction, unfortunately. Luckily over here it's not so loud, but still had a pretty good time here in Independence, Missouri. Hey, I'm back home after my trip to Independence, Missouri, and seeing the Harry S Truman Museum there. I said it took about an hour to get there. It took me about an hour and a half at least to get back home, because I hit heavy traffic in Kansas City area. So that's the only problem with Independence, Missouri. It's close to Kansas City, Missouri. So I hit a lot of traffic, unfortunately. But I just wanted to do this last video to show some things I bought at the gift store. My thing right now is I always buy a book when I go to a museum, and I buy a magnet anyways. But I got the book Truman by David McCullough. It's been written a while ago. I remember this came out some time ago. Pretty there at the Pulitzer Prize winning book. So I always knew this was like one of those big books that people talk about amongst the, presidential biographies, and I love presidential biographies. I have a bunch of them myself that I like to read. Anyways, this is the first one I got of David McCullough though. He did a John Adams one, which I haven't read, which I know is another like huge book. He did one on 1776, and on the Wright brothers is another one. Anyway, so he's definitely one of the big historians when it comes to writing historical books. Anyways, this is 992 pages, so almost 1,000 pages. I mean, it's crazy how this is. I mean, it's bigger than like my George Washington book, my Abraham Lincoln book. I mean, other big names, but he likes to write quite a bit. David McCullough. Anyway, so yeah, it's going to take me quite a while to get through that, but always love getting a new biography. And I picked up this magnet to put on the refrigerator whenever I get a refrigerator after I move from this house. Anyways, but yeah, so I love getting those. Always remember my time at the museum anyway. So I just want to end on that, and thank you so much for anybody watching this video, and I appreciate any of your comments, and yeah, just appreciate all of you guys, especially the subscribers, for really keeping this channel going. Yeah, God bless all of you, and hope you have a good week.